Hi, my name is Christopher Lusky, and welcome to our presentation focusing on different assessment strategies within music education. And we are here at Hess Education School District. And today, the target is to help all different types of students. We may have students that are shy, outgoing, and with all of these different personalities in the classroom, it's the job of the teacher to instruct them and put together a comprehensive and beneficial assessment strategy to measure their growth. So my hope today is for all participants to see the different methods and hopefully take something away that would help them or you in your classroom. If you have any questions after this presentation, there will be some designated time for that, and I hope that I can further be of assistance and reference moving forward. Before we dig into the abundance of different assessment strategies, we have to understand what assessment is. Now, from this slide, you see assessment is an educational method. Well, what is the educational method? What does it do? Why do we need it? Well, in general, assessment measures students' growth. So, measures students' growth. I think it's safe to say that every educator wants their students to succeed, and showing exactly the measurement of the students and how much they grow can be very helpful for parents, administrators, teachers, and of course, the students. Measure student growth. Now we understand what assessment is. Again, assessment is measuring students' growth. Once that concept is concrete in the teacher's pedagogy, it opens up the possibility for what types of assessments we can use. This slide demonstrates two major pillars or categories for the assessment strategies. We have formative assessment, which measures a short-term task, and summative assessment, which collects data over time. Now, how often should we use these two types of assessment strategies? Daily, weekly, monthly, once a year? I think the answer is as often as we can, so we can help the students and inform the parents and administrators, and like I mentioned in the previous slide. So again, formative assessment is measuring a task within the short-term range, and the summative assessment is measuring a student's ability within the long term. Examples of both of these will be explained in future slides. The two pillars of assessment being formative and summative. Again, formative, measuring student growth within the short term, and summative, having students be accountable for their work in the long term, allows us to explore actually what assessment techniques educators can use in their curriculum. We have the two horizontal subgroups as well, being for individuals, and the bottom one focusing on a group. Let's target the individuals first. Now I'll step away so you can focus on the table a little bit more, and we have competency-based instruction. So for this subgroup here, this box is allowing educators to target a specific skill or area for the student to improve in. So therefore, if dynamics or articulation is an area that the teacher wants to improve in the music classroom, then they have to put together the assessment, put together the activity, present it to the students in an effective manner, gather the results, and use the results in a meaningful manner. That is for competency-based instruction. The next one falls under the individual and summative group, which will be comprehensive exams. So maybe that can include a quiz or test that is passed out to each individual student, covering an entire unit or several weeks of instruction. For our group category, including formative and summative assessment, this will include program enhancement and, for the summative side, program evaluation. Program enhancement can have an educator giving a public concert or having a fundraiser that can benefit the public and expand the music program to more within a district. And program evaluation allows an administrator to perhaps come in and get an overall scope of what the curriculum and what assessment did to aid the curriculum, perhaps at the end of a year. Finally, we have the object of the assessment, what the teacher can assess. Knowledge, skills, attitudes and values, and behaviors. These are categories which the specific assessment strategies that you will see later can encompass. Here we have assessment versus evaluation. Do these two terms actually verse each other? No, they don't. They go hand in hand, but they could be confused with someone who is putting together an assessment activity or quiz or test. So what is the difference? Well, what we have here is assessment and evaluation in terms of performance. The top for assessment is, here it says, let's improve future performances. What can we do? What specific thing can we do? And evaluation is, once we decide what we're going to do, what's the quality of the performance? How good is what we're doing? Yeah? So, in another way to define assessment and evaluation is assessment will give us a concrete number, whether the assessment is subjective or objective, and evaluation allows us to break down that type of assessment strategy and dig even more into the approach, the quality of the approach. Up till this point, we explored what assessment is, gave two pillars of categories, being formative and summative assessment, as well as understood who the participants are, being individuals and groups. And then finally, we compared assessment and evaluation. And now it's time to move forward into methods of assessment. As you can see here, we have 9 boxes. And these are going to be 9 boxes giving assessment strategies, assessment examples. We have short answers, true or false, multiple choice, fill in the blanks, matching, essay writing, rubrics and checklists, Likert scales, portfolios. The assessment strategy that we will explore within this section will be true and false, multiple choice, fill in the blanks, rubrics and checklists, matching, and Likert scales. This collection of assessment strategies or methods are more traditional, have been practiced over many years. But hopefully you can see, with the use of technology, a different approach that teachers can use in the classroom. Utilizing traditional approaches, such as matching activities or essay-style assignments, gives a lot of chances for educators to understand how students perceive particular information. However, it is important to grasp how to assess a student in a variety of ways. What happened with this student here? What can happen in the classroom if an educator chooses to implement traditional paper and pencil assessment strategies? This is what can happen. They can become bored. I'm bored. They can think that. They can say that. It is the job of the educator to spark the interest of the students to want to complete the assessment. And it will be easier for the teacher. So what can we do? Is there something educators can do to eliminate students being bored in the classroom? The answer is yes. Yes, there's something we can do. Let's take a look at this picture. We have 3 students looking at a technology whiteboard in the classroom. 3 students that look interested. 3 students that want to learn. 3 students who wouldn't be afraid or against being assessed on this type of data. This is what we can do as educators. Use technology in the classroom. Take a look here, right in front of us. A projector, a laptop, speakers, whiteboard, classroom. Students can be actively engaged with the technology. Now we will explore more specific examples of that later on, but from here on out, what we're going to do is, from those 9 traditional assessment methods mentioned before, this section will target specific examples for everyone here to benefit from. Our first example that we will look into will be multiple choice. Multiple choice is a very traditional type of assessment. Students can be comfortable with this type of assessment because they can see a possible answer. They have a choice. Now, what we will listen to is a familiar tune called Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. And how many options does the student have? 3 options to select from. They are going to visually see the music as well as orally hear 3 different representations of the music. Their job is to select the correct audio example. Again, using visual and audio to allow in a multiple choice assessment to simply be implemented into the classroom. Let's take a listen.
Letter B. Letter C.
The students should be able to understand from reading the music and listening to the example that the answer is B. That's right. The answer is letter B. Our next assessment strategy after completing the multiple choice example is going to be true or false. True or false is another very popular traditional type of assessment method that can be found in the classroom. The student has a 50-50 chance of receiving the correct answer. They also have a 50-50 chance of receiving the wrong answer as well. But hopefully, after the student sees a visual representation again, like the multiple choice example of the music, they can determine if this rhythm in compound meter is rhythmically correct or not correct. So if we could, let's take a listen here and determine if the example is correct or not correct. If the students need to listen to it again, you can go back and play it on the computer, or you can simply clap yourself and allow the students to take another chance to complete the answer. So for our answer today, for right now, the answer is true. Yeah, the answer is true, and you can properly reward the students. And if the students had the wrong answer, then we can ask around the classroom and see, well, why did you arrive to that wrong answer? Our next traditional assessment method is going to include fill in the blanks. Fill in the blanks is very popular because it assesses if the students know the information or not. They can get partial credit, full credit, or no credit. So our multiple choice options, or sentences rather, we have here is playing music softly is called, playing music with force is called and playing music loudly is called. Now, you should say, well, why can't you just hand out a piece of paper and allow the students to complete it that way, and the students can hand it back to you, and you can see if each student has the correct answer or not. Yes, that's true, but taking this type of approach, we can add some urgency. We can change it into an activity. How can we change it into an activity? By adding time, by adding a limit of time. The timer is clicking down, and you can have individual students trying to write down the correct answer within the time limit, or you can have small groups work together, collaboratively work together to arrive to the correct answer. 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. At this point, the students would put their pencils down, and pay attention back up to the board. At this point, you can have the teacher show the answers, which is piano, accent, and forte. But if you didn't want to just show the answers and have the kids check from their seats, you can call up individual students, maybe one student from each team, and say, oh, Team A, please come up and write down the answer for number 1. Team B, pick a leader or individual from that group, come up and do number 2. And team letter C, come up to the board and write in the answer. This allows the students to have a sense of empowerment, ownership in the classroom, and they just have a natural sense of completing the assessment with utilizing technology. Our next assessment method is Likert scales. And Likert scales usually have 5 choices, a range of 5 choices. It measures attitude and/or accomplishments, and it is used for judgment. Well, what does that mean? How does an educator use this type of scale in the classroom? I will demonstrate and show an example on the next slide, but attitudes, do they like it? Do they kind of like it? Are they okay with it? They don't like it. Or they really don't like it. That would be 5 examples. Or accomplishments. They completed 100%, 80%, 60%, 40%, 20%. But it's a thin line there because we don't want to start shifting into rubrics just yet. So more so, I believe that Likert scales can be found with attitude and emotional behavior and perception from the student. But it is possible to have certain accomplishments as well. This next one we see is if the student likes, strongly likes, unsure, unlike, or strongly does not like, unlikes it, right? So, for example, we will listen to 3 musical excerpts and see if the students and where they fall on the scale.
Letter A.
You can ask the students what composer this is, but rather that can be another form of assessment, of identifying. That completes letter A.
Letter B.
Now letter B, students listen. Again, we can ask what certain instruments they can hear. They can identify those. What's the style of music? Maybe what time period? And for the last one?
Letter C.
Yeah, probably most kids are going to like this. It's fast, energetic, like kids. Then they can say, "Teacher, can you play that for us right now? Yeah, can you go to the piano?" And I say, "Okay, let's take a look up at the technology, the board, please, and let's see what our results are for all of our students completing the Likert scale." We have letter A, like, the Bach piece, and letter B for the woodwind quintet. Unsure, they might not know what those instruments are, so they may feel this. And the last one being the Flight of the Bumblebee, they probably strongly like it and they want to play something super, super fast. Our next assessment strategy is a very powerful one, rubrics. Now, rubrics can be used from teachers, students, but what are they? What do they do? Well, a rubric is a set of different criteria, and you can see here with the green. If it's a little too small, I will say for you, we have articulation and posture. We will see a video in the next slide, and we will try to pay attention if the musician is playing correct articulation and has correct posture. Now what's this? What are these blue sections up here? Well, a rubric has to have 3 levels. I'll say that one more time. A rubric has to have 3 levels to be considered a rubric. Good, bad, fair in the middle. But some rubrics can have 4 levels, and some detailed rubrics can have 5. For this one, we have 4 levels. Emerging, approaching a standard, meeting a standard, and exceeding a standard. Level 1 being the lowest, and level 4 being the highest. So let's take a look on the next slide, showing a video that has the musician playing with either good articulation or not so good articulation. And let's see if the posture is good or not good. The results are in for the clarinet player. Let's see how he did. We can come back to the rubric, see what the students marked down on possibly their own rubric sitting at their seat, and let's give a score. First one, articulation, we gave a 4 because sensitive interpretation of the style was achieved within that performance. However, the posture wasn't really too great throughout the performance. Generally it didn't have good posture, arched over with the posture, arched over the upper back. Here it says stance with correct posture, but I wasn't standing, but I wasn't giving correct posture even sitting down. Now, if a student is sitting at their chair and says, "Oh, teacher, I need to see an example of that. Can you go back to the video? Is that possible?" Yes, you can. You can go back to the video. Now, I won't play the full video. I'll turn it down. And you can see, you can scroll through, go back and forth, and see right there that, nope, arched over too much, probably gave bad breath support, and prove that the video assessment, we can see that no, the musician did not give an accurate interpretation or physical representation of posture. Our next form of assessment, still within the traditional set of assessment strategies that you saw in those 9 blue boxes. Checklists. Checklists is similar to true and false in a way. Did the student complete the academic task? Yes. No. No, they didn't. Checklists can be developed from educators, or they can be developed from the students, or as a class in whole. Our checklist for today will focus on the musician demonstrating. Did the musician demonstrate playing correct pitches? Did the musician demonstrate performing rubatos? Did the musician demonstrate facilitating correct finger pressure? And finally, did the musician demonstrate dynamic contrast? Now, again, if the audio example or video example is a little bit too difficult to catch the first time around, then the educator can play the example multiple times for the students and allow the participants to successfully complete the checklist. So at this point, I'll play the video on the next slide, and then we can evaluate and see what the assessment measurement came out to be. again, if students need to see, oh, teacher, can you play the last 20 seconds of it? And you can go back and play the last 20 seconds. I won't do that. Or if someone raises their hand and say, teacher, I need to hear the start of it and see what is going on with the the fingers, to see what's going on there. You can go back again and target that part. Yeah? But for now, let's move on to the results of the checklist. Here's our checklist one more time, and let's see what the results are. 1X being correct finger pressure, not okay, and correct pitches, performing rubato, and dynamic contrast is okay. If I can step off to the side, that would be great, and allowing you to see the slide here. So, while most of the objectives were complete, one area wasn't. Like I said, the finger pressure wasn't complete, right? And unstable finger pressure can lead to two types of issues, right? So first, the height of the fingers can vary, which would slow down the musician during certain rapid passages. When placing the fingers, with this height, slapping results is unnecessary sound. So for example, if the student, this can be seen in the video and heard in the video. If the musician is slapping their fingers down, that can simply be, well, no, there was not a sense of correct finger pressure, so we have to give an X for that, yes? Now, second, the musician had to play with the fleshy part of the fingertips also in order to provide a complete coverage of the hole. It is possible to miss the tone hole, which will result in an overtone sound. Again, a teacher can provide feedback to the provided checklist, or students themselves can complete the checklist to reinforce any of the concepts that you see here moving forward into the future. Our last traditional form of assessment is matching. Matching measures the comprehension of the student in a simple way. Match two pictures together, match two definitions, or match a word and a definition together. But in this case, we will be matching an oral example of 4 different composers. The images are as followed. We first have number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. I say number 1, 2, 3, 4 because, again, you can assess the students simply with a show of hands. Who knows composer number 1? Who knows composer number 2, or letter B? Who knows composer letter C? And who knows composer letter D? Now, we know these composers as Mozart, Beethoven, Bach, and Brahms, but for students, this gives them the further chance to come up to the board again, write down who these composers are, or they can listen to the examples and write down from their chair. Let's take a listen.
Letter A.
So letter A is not number 1. It's not Mozart. So the kids are saying, okay, this is not in order. This is not in order. We got to pay attention now.
Letter B.
I can say, pay attention to the instrument. What instrument is playing? Was that instrument, when did that specific instrument come out? Did it come out during all of these composers' times? Maybe, maybe not.
C.
While the kids are listening, you can walk around and check. Okay, so we're finishing up this matching slide and the traditional assessment section overall. Let's go over the answers. The first one is Bach, and letter B rather is Mozart, and C is Brahms, and the last one, of course, will be Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata, the third movement. So at this point, we're going to move into how to specifically connect technological software or devices with assessment. Traditional types of assessment will always have and should always have a place in education and with assessment specifically. But we can't deny the fact that technology is evolving and every single citizen pretty much in the world is using some form of technology. Phones, internet, and various other examples. What are those examples that we're going to cover today? Let's take a look. Technological inclusion, that is our section that we will focus on. And we have approaches and examples. The first one, our approach, connecting to the world. How can students connect to the world? How can we take the student's mindset and expand beyond the four walls of the classroom? Mobile recordings. And my phone is somewhere around here. And at this moment, I'll just use this eraser. So, how many students have a cell phone? How many students have a smartphone? If we took that statistic, probably 80%, 85%. So should we ignore that opportunity to use that tool in a beneficial manner where educators can assess students with mobile devices? How can we do that? We'll talk about that a little bit later. Collection of student work. How are we going to do that? We'll go over there in a moment. And then interactive technology. All the different examples will be utilizing Skype, smartphones, websites, smartboards, visual aids, audio, and video examples. So at this moment, we'll go in order and start with connecting to the world. Connect to the world. How should we use Skype in the classroom for assessment purpose? Using Skype in the classroom. Here you'll see we have 3 targeted areas. The first one, we can invite experts and other professionals to give some criticism, helpful criticism, for the participants in the classroom. So let's say that the ensemble is performing a piece and I would like to contact my own professor from across the country. Now, having that person fly in across the country, sit down and view the band in person would be great, but not realistic. Paying for the plane ticket, paying for the expenses for food, stay, and of course, it just takes a lot of time. Skype can cut away all the expenses and be very convenient in a time situation. And bringing in the professional can do that. Kids will most likely be excited as well to say, "Oh, there's somebody else here. Let's try to do a little bit better," right? Or whatever instrument they may play or sing. Right? Number 2, assess makeup work. Lots of students all the time are absent from school. You can have students catch up with the work when they eventually come into school, but that might be a little hard to do. So what can an educator do? What we can do is connect with the student, have the student talk to you that evening, or if you know that the student will be out of school for 5 or 6 or 7 days, Then you say, okay, Johnny, once you feel okay, but not good enough to come to school, but okay to go onto the computer, you can at least talk to me and send a little bit of work over the computer, over Skype, and I can directly give you feedback at that moment. So real-time feedback, let me view the work, talk to you over the internet, and the student can hopefully get better and get back to school as well. And the last one, connect classrooms. Similar to inviting experts, now we can connect to different teachers and educators and programs across the entire country and world. If we want students to work collaboratively on a project, they can get their specific instructions. The teacher can guide them, set up particular times for the students to work together with other students with Skype, and the interest will most likely be very high and beneficial for the students. The next slide is continuing with Skype, and it focuses on tutoring a lesson. Therefore, this specific slide probably will associate a little bit better with private instructors and how Skype can assess and give helpful feedback for the students. So again, Skype is very convenient. It has convenience as well as unique feedback. Now, what does that mean? What's unique feedback? A teacher can listen to a student play over Skype and say to that student, well, I think you need to fix this, and I believe that this is not okay here, and let me hear this section again. What's the difference from that to being in person, right? Well, you can give a video link, an audio link, write anything in the text box that directly connects to the internet. That's the unique part of it. Also, the lessons can be recorded. In person, you can record as well, but you can naturally record over Skype because you're using a computer. And that recording can be used in the future for assessment purposes, as well as just helpful feedback for the student and the parent, and for the teacher as well, to say, oh, that part of the lesson didn't go too well, let me change this part of the instruction to meet the needs for the student. Continuing with technological inclusion, our second category will be mobile recording. Now, I found my phone from before, not using an eraser anymore, and phones have come a long way. We don't really have the traditional phone booths found in the corner. If you do see those, then that's pretty amazing. But most people, like I said before, about 80% or so, have cell phones or smartphones. And it's truly amazing that you can record in a video format or with an audio format right in the palm of your hand. Now, how do we take that technology and connect it to assessment? Well, what we have here is recording students. But teachers don't need to just record students. Students themselves, because what I just said, most of them have phones, can record themselves within rehearsal. They can do it individually, like a practice session. They can also do it in a group setting, like a rehearsal. And the example that I will show and present here will be a vocal example. A student using her phone in a choir rehearsal. Let's take a listen.
Truth, light, and
after that recording is completed, the student and the teacher can say, well, what articulation was accurate within this recording? How were the dynamics? Did the student successfully target and accurately rather target all of the correct pitches and rhythm and performed the right rhythm? These are these different types of criteria that we spoke about before, maybe within a rubric setting. A student can then go, oh, I can see the recording. How does my voice fit within the entire ensemble? How am I individually contributing and helping with my skills, or the student's skills here for this example, connecting to the entire ensemble? So mobile recordings, again, very powerful tool, very convenient tool, and very helpful for assessment. Websites is our next section within technological inclusion, and there are a lot of websites, a variety of websites available for teachers and students to use within the classroom, within their schools. And it's very helpful because students and teachers can connect very easily over the internet. But there should be one urge, perhaps, of caution, that safety and privacy is very important for parents to know that their children will be okay and have a sense of security while using the internet. Because you don't want a student to post any sort of information and then that information can get out of hand. So just keep in mind that an educator should set up specific guidelines, perhaps permission slips, to go home to the parents and to get the correct consent for the students to use the websites. Okay, now that that's out of the way, we have two websites presented here on the slide. The first one, Blogger, it's free to use. And Twittercate, it's also free to use. Now, these two sites gives the chance for students to see video, hear audio, post thoughts about certain topics in a text format. It's very easy to go home onto the computer and say, oh, let me log in to Blogger or Twittercate and let's see what my teacher would like me to review or learn for tonight's assignment. So very powerful tools for students to connect beyond the four classroom walls that we mentioned before, I believe with the Skype, within the Skype slides. So for the next slide, we'll see an example from Blogger, and let's take a look at that. Here's an example from Blogger, my own personal example, and before I turn to this image here, please keep in mind, Blogger is free and it allows students or participants to voice their opinion, post a thought in a text format or video and audio, whether the assignment is subjective or objective in nature, it doesn't matter. That option is very valuable as a tool for students to connect efficiently over the internet, in the comfort of their own home, mind you. Now, this GarageBand composition, it is symmetrical in design, and the programs that were utilized were Soundation, Audacity, as well as GarageBand. The students can click on the image, listen, and I can post below the image a specific question for the students to answer. If I don't want to make it too specific, if I want to make the question open-ended to promote discussion, I can choose that as well. But the point is for students to go home to go into the comfort of their own home and complete this assignment and connect back to our content that we learned for that day. But more importantly, it allows the educator to say, oh, I see that Nancy has thoughts about the music having a nice phrase, or Jimmy saying that it's a little too forceful for me. That opportunity is very helpful with using Blogger. Our last section, focusing on technological inclusion, will be interactive technology. There are 3 parts to this: images, audio, and video. What we have here is 5 pictures that the students can see, maybe when they're coming in, and simply asking them, what instrument is this? It's the clarinet, yeah! What instrument is this? What family of instruments does the trumpet belong to? It's the brass instruments. You can have students come to the board, and we can have further discussion about these 5 instruments. The next part focuses on sound. Once they know that the flute and trombone are the 2 instruments, they're going to use their ears now, not just their eyes, their ears to identify the familiar tune. I'll turn this down. They should know what the tune is, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, and they should know what the instrument is, being the trombone. If they do not, you can simply do this assessment technique. Have all the students close their eyes and say, please raise your hand if you think the trombone was playing. They raise their hand. Please raise your hand if you think the flute was playing. They raise their hand. And now, open up your eyes, please. Have them open their eyes on the correct answer or the incorrect answer and say, if your hand is up, then you are correct for the trombone. Yay! Why close their eyes? So they don't just copy their friend. For the last part here, we have video. Interactive video technology we have used before when we looked at the rubrics and checklists, but for here, you can have students simply watch a video, and the teacher can pose a question on the top of the board, and it can promote further discussion. So for this one, what was the problem that happened for this musician? So the answer would be, well, he got a grunting sound, the reed didn't speak, and further answers can be generated from there. Our last section for this presentation will focus on and take a look at assessing results, specifically with audio feedback. What audio software programs can educators use simply within the classroom or at home to give feedback for the students effectively and efficiently? And we can record with Audacity, GarageBand, and Microsoft OneNote. We have the assessment, we have the recording, and we can record our voice. The students can go home, take a listen to the teacher. Oh, that's what I need to work on. And then they can improve from there. The conclusion of this presentation will highlight the idea of polling. Now, this image here is an online survey image from the popular site Emoto, similar to Twittercate. And the question here is, does formative assessment provide data for the short term or long term? Something that we talked about 50 minutes ago. The answer is short term. And once the students check it online, the result data can be displayed for everybody to see. Now, it doesn't need to be a simple question. It can be an audio example or video example, like we talked about before with the interactive technology. Online surveys are very helpful. However, you need to wait for the students to go home, log online, and complete the question. Poll Everywhere allows you to gather this data anywhere. So for example, you can poll by an audience. We have to ask a question first. You can text in the answer or web browser, use the web browser, and then we can view the results. Very powerful tool, and it's free. We're at the final moment here for me to ask you to answer this question and gather some data right now from Poll Everywhere. The question is, what type of assessment method would you like to try after viewing this presentation? You can go onto a web browser, pollev.com/ChristopherO816, or text ChristopherO816 to 222-333. It is activated now. You can see that the website is waiting for a response with the wheel turning. So think back throughout the presentation. What part of this presentation would you like to try within your classroom? What assessment strategy would you like to attempt? So I'm still waiting for some responses. Oh, we got our first one. Our first one is Skype with an exclamation point. Skype. Okay? And we can see right now that a participant wants to use Skype after using this presentation. Our next one is websites. Another person posted websites. Okay? And I think we can get one more. Yes, phone recordings. Phone recordings, websites, and Skype. 3 great tools for educators to try within their classroom. I would like to say thank you to all of the participants who joined this presentation today. And at this time, if you'd like to ask any questions, I will do my best to provide an answer. And if you'd like to share some social networking information or a simple email address, we can have further conversations in the future. And finally, if you have any questions about the various resources used throughout this presentation, please don't hesitate to ask. Thank you.